Okay, we are recording. Hi everyone, this is Magenta Pixie and I have with me Jen McCarty and I have with me Tara Love Perry. So the three of us have just been having a little chat, working out what we're going to talk about today, and we've got quite a few topics we'd like to discuss and touch upon. So shall we start, Tara, with the question you just asked me just now?
Yeah, totally.
Let's go for that then. So
I'm raring to go on that one.
Tara asked me a question and I said, let's start recording and ask me again with the cameras on so that everybody else can sort of share in this conversation. Otherwise, we'll be talking for the next 2 hours and we'll forget to record.
I know.
Okay, so go on then, Tara, ask your question again.
Yeah, so actually it's so brilliant as well to be with you both. It's really wonderful. And Magenta, I've been thinking about this for the last few days because I've become really focused in the last week, especially about the end of the year, the last, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the year that we've got left. And I keep feeling drawn like a magnet to look at the end of the year, even the new year point after the solstice. And for me, it's like a big light at the end of the tunnel. And I keep getting this feeling of like, I wonder what the Nine is saying about this. I wonder what Magenta has to say. I wonder what Magenta's feeling that's coming up for the end of the year. And of course, Jen's been in my mind a lot as well. So I'm really excited to see what you both think and feel about this. So,
well, right at the beginning of the when they told us to go to our houses and not go out, we are speaking in code, by the way, to anyone listening, so bear with us on that. Around about March, when I looked forward, I saw this situation in various guises occurring for the rest of the year. I knew right back in March that this was going to be 2020, the whole of 2020. You know, there was no sort of stopping and going back to normal or anything like many people thought. No, this was 2020. But what I was seeing is some kind of resolution around the end of 2020 with light. All I was seeing in 2021 as we were going into 2021 was light. So I was thinking and perceiving back in March that this is a 2020 thing and everything starts to change in 2021 and that we see the beginnings of the new earth, and that's why we're experiencing light. Obviously, we've now gone through the year. We're now in November. So what I see from now to the end of the year is obviously the same sort of thing, but with more of a clarity as we're a little bit closer now than we were in March. What I'm seeing is, you were saying you're sort of whizzing to the end of the year, and I see it like that as well, hurtling along, you know, really, really powerful speed, like a snowball going down a hill, gathering momentum, gathering snow, whoosh to the end of the year. And it is very much a 2020 sort of program, a 2020 situation. And I'm talking about from a metaphysical and spiritual point of view. I don't mean from a planned point of view coming in from either a negative group or a positive group. So it is this sort of chunk of time, 2020, hurtling towards the end of the year with these. I wouldn't necessarily see this as much as I did in March as a cut and dried end of something, resolution and the beginning of light. There's more nuances. It's more blended now, because I think that as we go towards the end of the year, there's this revelation that is really coming up and coming to the people in not in one great big hit. A few things are one great big thing, but then there's a reaction to it. So some people are not believing what they're seeing, and they're all having their own subjective feelings to these revelations. But by the end of the year, these revelations will be in the public domain in various ways. And as we go into the new year, I do still see this light. I definitely see the beginnings of the new earth energies, but there's still a trail of the old order going into 2021. However, there is a big, I won't say event necessarily, because it is a convergence, and that does present as a multitude of different events, but it does appear like there is a significant energy on the winter solstice, or summer solstice, wherever you are in the world, the 21st of December. As we go into next year, it's almost like the old order is trailing through, but what's actually happening is a fall of the old order. And whilst there is still an intention coming from that negative group to build this old order up into its new configuration, speaking in code, whilst that intention is still there, the whys and the wherefores and the means to be able to put that timeline into practice is just constantly being blocked and shifted and changed. Different people will experience different things as well. So starseeds, aware individuals, truthers, patriots, those people are being drawn into the revelation, which they're already aware of, being shown to the world, this event type scenario that's occurring, this light coming into 2021 and this new earth, this sort of abundant coming into their own power, coming into their own divinity in the physical world. The aware individuals are sort of going into that new earth timeline. But the others, those who are not necessarily aware, truthers, patriots, light workers, starseeds, the ones that have been asleep, the ones that are shocked by the revelation, it's a different journey for them. This is something that we are going to see as fantastic and beautiful, even though from our point of view, we're looking at the others going through this shock situation and we're feeling compassion for them and we're feeling for them. What we're experiencing is a beautiful new earth world where we're coming together, and it's wonderful. The great gathering and all of those things are really, really occurring and really, really here. But for those individuals who are asleep to this and who go through the shock, it's much more difficult. And if you're an indigo soul and you think of all the times in your life where you've gone through challenges and you've gone through shadow work with your spiritual path and you've had to break down to rebuild up again, or you've lost everything and then you have to start again. We've been through all of those things, which is why we're coming to this sort of place of this divine new earth experience now. But those individuals haven't been through that. They are going through that now. So whilst we've all been through this dark night of the soul experience in 2020, they are coming into this, what I would call the breakdown and then the reconstruction. So it's the first stages of that carbon to crystalline change, which is challenging and dramatic and difficult, and it can push people into resistance. So those of us who are in this more flowing new earth, divine, abundant energy and seeing it and creating it around us will be in positions to be able to help the others. And that's what I'm seeing. But this energy at the end of the year, you're right, around the solstice, around Christmas time, in December, is huge. It's almost like if you were to imagine I use the term swamp, which is used by many. If you were to imagine a swamp and actually putting your hands in and trying to take out a little bit of the mud and the slush, and then just thinking it's not enough, I need to get more of this sludge out, and putting your hands right into the swamp and bringing out a huge piece of that swamp. That's kind of what's happening in December. It's like a real deep dive. And what I'm talking about, the metaphor of all this sludge, is revelations of that which has been hidden, truth being shown to the world for the first time in this dramatic way. And at the same time, we have all these cosmic alignments, and because the spiritually aware star-seeded individuals are opening their hearts and are creating a critical mass energy with their own coming into this abundant new earth energy, that's creating even more powerful shifts and experiences for those that are already awake. And in the middle of all this, we have this two-world split. So this is almost like the breakdown before we can move forward and unify. We're already unified within this aware group, but we are on a journey to unify with the entire community of humanity. And that doesn't happen yet. The unification of all of us is further down the line, but we are unifying now through December and into 2021 with all the like-minded. And we're becoming more unified than we have ever been. So this is kind of what I'm seeing. What about you girls?
Shall I speak?
Yeah, go, Jen.
I really resonated with everything that you said, Magenta. It was amazing, and it really helped put dots together, and yeah, really, really powerful. And it's definitely sparked off a lot of kind of, you know, trails of downloads for me. So what I've been shown, and this is connected to what is going on astrologically on that day, and there's this big Jupiter and Saturn alignment, and according to the very top astrologers, this date marks the true birth of the age of Aquarius. So it's unequivocal, like we truly are entering into that threshold on a particular level where we are moving into the age of Aquarius. And so I think with that, there is so much momentum astrologically going on around that date. And it's also connected to the eclipse. I think the eclipse is on the 14th. So what I'm hearing is dark to light, from darkness to light. And I think that's very much in alignment with what you were saying, Magenta, that somehow there's going to be a deep dive into the darkness. And this could be revelation time, this could be disclosure, this could be drip, drip, flood. Like we've all been waiting for that drip, drip, flood. And so I'm getting goosebumps. So there is a strong chance that could be December is going to be when it's no longer drip drip. It's like it's actually a flood, and there's going to be an expose. And you know, it's taken a long time for us truthers to get to this point where finally we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That there is going to be a little bit of expose going on around certain members of the DS, the deep state. So I see that going on. Definitely, I see a shift. I think that the white hats have been in full control, and on the higher dimensional levels. And I think that what has been playing out is a revealing. You can't tell people; you have to show them, and that is what the administration has been doing by exposing all the corruption, because it's so deeply ingrained, this allegiance to the opposite of the right. Do you know what I mean? This allegiance to that is very, very very deep and very illogical and very, very irrational, it seems. So it feels like it feels like the white hats are in control, and they're controlling the agenda, and then we are going to be moving towards more of an expose. That's what I feel about December. With regards to this 21st of December Ascension Horizon event, what I've been shown is that there is an alignment with Galactic Central that happens every year at the solstice. And when we make that alignment with Galactic Central, we align with these photonic light particles which spew forth from Galactic Central. And these photonic light particles are a little bit like locks that interact with our DNA, which is like a key. And they send information to our DNA to start upgrading, to start rearranging from a chaotic 2-strand formation to a 12-strand diamond structure again. This is exactly what Magenta was saying about, as we shift from this carbon to crystalline, we shift from this 2-strand configuration where our DNA was manipulated probably around the time of the fall of Atlantis, and it was shook, it was shaken up, and it was taken out of this diamond structure, and it was put into a sort of like random kind of pattern. And then that was then defined as junk DNA. But really what that junk DNA is referring to is offline DNA that hasn't actually come online within our own consciousness. So what I'm seeing with this 21st of December event is that there's like a new pattern, a new structure and configuration with the patterning of the photonic light particles that is unlike anything we've ever experienced before. And this is going to really, really activate this process from carbon to crystalline. Exactly what Magenta was saying. It's going to boost this process very, very massively. And so we're going to get a lot of ascension symptoms. We're going to have to be really vigilant around managing these light influxes that we're going to be experiencing. And I think maybe later on in the video we can speak about that. But what I'm seeing is a huge amount of light, just like Tara said, just like Magenta said. I'm seeing a huge amount of light coming into the planet around the 21st of December point. And to be honest, I'm seeing a lot of light as we move into January, etc. So that's interesting. I'm not really being shown how or why I'm being shown so much light, but when I tune in, I am being shown a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that means that the rightful person will take the position in the competition that happened, and that will activate a lot of joy and a lot of ecstasy and rapture, I think, from a lot of us, because I think this next 4 years is going to be very, very different to the previous 4 years. And this is where we really start taking big strides towards anchoring the golden age. So that's what I reckon.
Woohoo!
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. And I agree. And I you know, I never thought that it's the joy of the people. I mean, I've seen for a long time, everyone coming into this place where, you know, we've been waiting for this moment when we can sigh a sigh of relief and allow ourselves to cheer, allow ourselves to say, yes, oh, yes, amazing. I've been seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. But it's like I've been, not yet, not yet. And I've gone inside. I've allowed myself to come to this place of cheer and joy and celebratory feeling within, but I haven't allowed myself to go into it outside, because on the surface things just haven't got there yet, but I've always known it's coming. And I also see this light, and have done since March, and I'm thinking you could well be right. It's the rapture event caused by our own ecstasy, because we're already in a crystalline configuration within the DNA. Our collective joy, when we are in a celebratory state across the planet, is creating a rapturous situation. And whilst I've had that information from the 9 as to how it is, I haven't put it into you know, tied up the dots. And Jen, that's perfect. That's sort of an epiphany for me, because I'm thinking, of course, it's the people's joy, it's the people's celebratory energy, because what we have wanted, especially for the last 2 or 3 weeks regarding the American competition, what we have wanted comes to pass. So that continues, because obviously when what we want comes to pass, it isn't going to just be yay, hunky-dory, and that's it. We then have to move through a whole load of other stuff, because the individuals who don't want that thing are then going to react to not having that, what they want. So it's closer to the winter solstice that this all comes to the fore and brings everything else with it, because it's not just about the American competition, it's everything else around it. Like, what about all the other competitions in all the other countries? How long have these competitions been hijacked for? And then everything that comes along with that. And then we are going to go to other places across the globe, and the connections with other places across the globe and the people there, and how it's all connected. And then that's going to come back to the pathogen and the germ situation, and the going to your houses and not going out situation. All of that is tied up. So this is where these abundant, it's almost like dominoes, and one domino, I know we've had a series of dominoes since sort of 2011, 2012, but this is another set of big dominoes. And that first domino, when that first domino falls, which will be to do with the American competition, when that first domino falls, they all fall down, literally every single one. What do you think, Tara?
I totally, and I've got that image in my head of, you know, when you lift up the rug where everything's been swept under for so long and it's rotten, you know, it's minging under there. No one's looked under there for a long time. It's like, whoa, not today's job, not going to do that. And it's like, yeah, that first part of the carpet is picked up and everyone goes, oh shit. And it's like, and keep peeling it back, and bit by bit, that big reveal. And that's going to be happening for several years yet, definitely. But you know what? I love it. I love it when we're talking, because everything you guys have been saying is completely synchronized with what I've been picking up and having come through as well. And what it reminded me, when you were just talking there, Jen, what it reminded me of is, have you guys ever been to somewhere like Newgrange that's in Ireland, or an ancient Druid temple that's built to the winter solstice? So Newgrange, right, there's this place in Ireland called Newgrange. It's a big fancy visitor centre now, but I first went there on my 18th birthday, and it was just like it's a stone cairn, and it's got quartz crystals all the way around it, and it's built with enormous slabs of rock in a circle into a dome. They're all piled on top of each other, and there's this tiny little pathway that goes through for about 50 feet, and then a little cave in the center, and it's completely aligned to the winter solstice sunrise. And so when the sun comes over the horizon, it shines down this narrow little pathway and illuminates this cavern inside. And years ago when I was there, and we were talking to the people who, you know, let you into the car park on the way in, and they were telling us all of the research that they'd done on this cairn. And apparently what they believed was that around, and you have to remind me of the exact number, but it's every 6,000 and something 100 years, we go from the light age to the dark age to the light age. And there's that to do with the spiral arms of the galaxy, and I can't remember the exact number. But they were telling us that what happened was, when we went into the dark age, over 6,000, whatever, 100 years ago, all of the druids, whether it was the Celtic druids and some that had come down from Russia and Siberia, they'd gone into this cairn on the winter solstice and were never seen to come out again. And they've got loads of evidence about this, but I was in there, right? I didn't know how psychic I was at 18 years old. I'm in this cairn, I'm picking up all this energy, it's going completely nuts. And I'm like, there's this place in the thing that has, like, it looks like there used to be a huge stone there, or a huge crystal. Apparently what happened with these druids is, because of the energies of that solstice, and that specific solstice, and the energies of the earth were lowering, going into that darker age, they stayed in their light bodies, or ascended into their light bodies. And so it appeared that they disappeared from this human dimension, if you like. And so it's like, we'll be traveling through this dark age. And I really feel, sorry for the long story, but I really feel that coming up to this winter solstice, and I'm hoping it's this winter solstice, but it feels very much on point for that timing, where those of us who in our souls have been here so many lifetimes. And it's not just, you know, the celebration of this competition and who wins the competition. I feel like for so many of us, it's the celebration of our soul's journey, where we go, and here is where we come out of that dark age. Here is where we are going back into our light bodies, literally as well as metaphorically, like actually literally, like you said, from carbon to crystalline. That's a completely different it's completely different structure. You know, it looks completely different. It behaves differently. There's more light, and that's going to be our bodies. And that is our bodies. That's what we're becoming. And so while some of us are ready, we've purified, we've cleansed, we've gone through all those dark nights of the soul, we've lost everything, we've done our purging, done our healing, done our cleansing, or to enough of a degree where we are manifesting into our light bodies. And I've just got this really strong feeling of that convergence, that moment, that celebration of that shift into the birthing of the new earth. And simultaneously, there will be brothers and sisters who are yet to do their cleansing. And it might, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm not disappearing off the earth. I still feel like, you know, we're going to be visible. But it's like, there's definitely, it's like coming through that fourth dimensional initiation to come out into the fifth and higher dimensions. It's like everybody has to make that journey. Nobody else can do it for you. And yet it can feel like there's a whole bunch of us, the forerunners maybe, who have just been, doing this for a long time. And here we are, and it's like that breakthrough moment. And so I don't know about you, but I feel like the celebration in me, like you were saying, Magenta, has just been like, this is it, this is it, this is happening. This is a real thing. This is no longer, oh, in the future. It's like, it's now. And it feels to me like the ground level situation with the competition and with all of the other people in power that are going to be looked at, definitely a big revelation coming up as we peel that rug back, and like you said, people actually have to see it. So it's going to be on a very physical level as well as on that metaphysical level, and it's so exciting. It's super exciting. And I feel like that this winter solstice, especially with the eclipse just the week before as well, feels like a really important time where people can just get aligned now with that celebration, get aligned now with that joy, that outcome that we know that our souls are born here at this time for this purpose, to birth the new age, to herald the new age, and and just put all your love and focus into not so much about the sides, even which side, who's going to win, but just about that celebration of heaven on earth. Here we are manifesting this new earth, and that love that really matters to all of us, and that peace. And I think as we just really enjoy and celebrate that feeling inside of us, it brings it closer, it magnifies it, and makes it more potent and makes it more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Tara. And that rug analogy, fantastic. And I totally agree. I think the American competition and the relief and the joy of that is just the physical, grounded aspect to everything that's occurring on all the multidimensional levels simultaneously. And you'll have people who are being brought into that wave, who are caught up with the American competition and the joy and the celebratory energy, that perhaps aren't necessarily aware of the higher dimensions, but they'll be taken up as well into that sort of rapturous, euphoric energy. And it is creating the whole what we call the event, the rapture, all of those things, and everything that you said about the light body and the crystalline change, and however that is experienced. So I think that's a really good segue into, you were saying about it's not important about sides. And I was saying earlier before we started recording that one of the issues at the moment, I've been posting quite a lot of posts on social media talking about Mr. DT, Mr. T. I mean, one of my posts is he wins the building with a door and 4 windows and a roof. He wins the next bit with all the people in who are governmental bodies, if you will, and the kingship, the top spot. He wins all of it, as in the majority in all of these sections of the American palace structure. All of those sections are red. And when I post that on social media, I get a lot of responses like, yes, I agree with you, and I'm feeling the same thing. But then people will accuse me and say, you are causing division because I'm taking a side. So, I mean, what I'd like to ask you both is it important to take a side? Are we looking here, when we look at the American competition, are we looking here, and we're going up through the multidimensional levels of energy right through to the metaphysical, are we looking at a battle between good and evil playing out on the 3D level on Earth? Do we have a representative of one of these individuals who are taking part in the competition being a representative for good? Do we have the other one, a representative for evil? Is that what is playing out? Or Do we rise above that polarity game? And do we see both those individuals within the competition, both having partly good and partly evil within them, and that they're both sort of equal, really, in a respect? And are we doing ourselves a disservice by taking a side? Should we be rising up and looking with neutrality at this situation? Or do we somehow enter some kind of paradoxical consciousness where we are doing both of these things? How do you see that, Jen, really? The competition, the taking of sides, the playing out of the good and evil on the third dimensional Earth reality? Or should we be in neutrality and just be focusing on unity? And are we doing ourselves a disservice, especially if we profess to be spiritual? Are we not being spiritual by taking a side? What would you say?
Well, I would say that I am 100% committed to being authentic and transparent, and I've sort of, that's how I've approached my teaching or whatever. I'm not like, oh, come and sign up and do this course and then I'll give you my pearls. I'm just like, have my pearls, guys, just take them. So I am a person that is completely committed to authenticity. So when I tune into Mr. T, I get so activated. I get like proper like Kundalini rushes. I get like my heart starts doing stuff that my heart chakra has never really done before. I get like a visitation from his higher self. I get a visitation from his soul. When that happens, it affects me somatically. And so I get goosebumps. I get very, very emotional. And I just feel this like heart chakra explosion. That's the only word that I can explain adequately that what happens to me. When I tune into the opponent, I feel like there's nothing there. I feel like there is nothing for my consciousness to grab onto. So I can't even get a reading of that person because there's nothing there. So I'm just being truthful. Like, and at the end of the day, if you don't appreciate me being authentic, that's fine. I'm not invested in you being part of my community. I'm going to work with people that appreciate the fact that I am authentic. And I've lost a lot of people. I've lost a lot. And I certainly don't take this stance to be popular. The very opposite, in fact. It's because I cannot be untrue to myself. And I went public with it, and there was an absolutely massive backlash from all my family, from all of my community, from all of my friends that were just total, like, full-on liberal brainwashed. So and then I've questioned, oh, I'm a spiritual teacher, should I really? But I just I can't not. I mean, I red pilled my whole group. I had like 100,000 people in the group, and we weren't political. But then as soon as the pathogen hit, I was like, guys, I am in 100% full support of the White Hat administration, and it is chief commanded by Mr. T, and I won't have anyone speaking about him in a negative way, because I actually feel like he's a member of my family, and I get really, really offended if people speak about him. So that was a mad one. Oh, the backlash I got was just phenomenal. But the thing is back to your question, Magenta, how could I not have taken that stance? Because I would be inauthentic. And also the fact of the matter is, I woke up so many people, so many like liberals were in my group. They didn't know, but because I'd had these fifth dimensional meetings and contacts with him, because they loved me, they were like, oh wow, that's really cool, Jen, that you had that experience. I'm gonna look beyond what the mainstream media says. I'm gonna have a little peek at his executive orders that he signed. And they've all come back to me saying, oh my God, Jen, I just couldn't even get through the executive orders without sobbing. But not one of them has been mentioned on mainstream media. Not even one of his works of godliness has been put on mainstream media. So at the end of the day, I feel like I have enlightened so many people through taking that stance. I've lost a few people, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care. My family, you can't lose your family. Me and my mum, we just don't talk about it. That's fine. We're fine. We don't talk about it. She thinks he's dangerous. I think he's heaven sent. So that's fine. So does that answer your question, Magenta?
Oh, wow. Yes, that's absolutely fantastic. And really authentic, real, from the heart way that you feel. And, you know, I absolutely resonate with everything you say, right down to having a family member who feels the same way as your mother, as someone that I'm close to and that I'm with a lot. And, you know, we have to just not talk about it. Simple as that. I actually feel sorry for that person, though, because they were so happy when Mr. B won in the eyes of the people on the television. I feel sorry for her because I know that that's not real and it's an illusion, and I've tried to sort of prepare her and say, look, you know, Mr. T is going to win. He already has, and it's all behind the scenes. But no, she doesn't believe that. So even though I've tried to cushion the shock, it's not working. But yeah, I resonate with everything you said. So thank you so much for sharing. So Tara, what do you think about this situation and the whole sort of polarity thing? And are you being divisive when you take a side? Are you actually causing division? And is that something that someone who professes to be a spiritual teacher should not be doing? I've actually had people say to me, I'm dismayed to actually read these statuses of yours, and I thought you were above that, and I think it's a real shame that you are spreading division in the way that you are. So what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm really sorry that you've had that, and Jen as well, and I completely understand. I put a similar post out being very excited about what was happening, and some very, very dear, beloved people that have been in my life a long time, that have, you know, done healing work and all kinds of things with, weren't just dismayed, they were horrified that I'd come out with my preference publicly and my joy about that. And I felt really sad. Jen and I were talking about this. I felt really sad because the side that they were taking meant everything. And for that level of, I don't think it's divisive to choose a side, like you said, or I don't think it's creating a divide to choose a side. I feel like it's, where's your heart in that? Where's your intention? Because we don't just look at the movie and the picture. It's like, where does that come from? It comes from the projector. If you remember the old movie, cinemas, you know? And it's like, what's coming from us is what creates that reality. We are the projector of our reality. And so when you look at each individual of what they're choosing, whether it's the side or whether it's neutrality, it's like, where are they coming from? And if I see somebody, or when I see somebody who is absolutely locked in their terror, they've had, and I'm thinking of one person particularly, a very dear client of mine from years ago, had a horrific life, was brought up in Palestine. She had a very famous mother, had a lot of people from the war who were suffering and troubled and being shot at. She grew up in this. And so when she looks at Mr. B, she sees a better future. When she looks at Mr. T, she sees that that's the cause. And her terror has been through her whole life. And it's like, so I feel like when people are trying to make a decision, trying to make a choice, but they're looking through eyes that are absolutely bloodstained and tear-stained with their own terror, with their own fear, through what they've been through in their life, the horrors that people have been through. And I have like huge empathy and compassion for that. And yet it's like, how clearly can you see through those eyes? You wouldn't drive a car with your windshield completely filthy and covered in, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of dirt. You would clean the windscreen so you can see where you're going. And it's like that with our eyes. It's like that with the eyes in our mind and the way that we're perceiving and the way that we're thinking. Because, how you perceive the world then massively impacts your sense of self and your sense of truth and your reality in the world. And it's just like, it can be devastating. So when people are making a choice, I feel like, first of all, get clear. right? Clear your windscreen, clear your eyes, clear your mind, like your followers were doing, Jen. It's like, oh, okay, let me see something else, being willing, being open to see something else. And I'm never going to tell people which side they should choose, because in a way, in the bigger picture of things, for me, I always feel like it's already done. It's a done deal. We are walking through a game that's already been won, if you like. And we chose this experience. We chose to incarnate into this life, into this time, into these bodies, to walk through this experience and to live out this duality of the black and the white and the red and the blue and the this and the that and the right and the wrong. We're walking through it. And yet we are all divinely blessed and divinely gifted with free will. We have an ability to choose. And so with that ability to choose, can we please choose wisely? Can we please choose from our heart, from sensing from our heart, which is a compass which always knows the truth and which knows when something isn't the truth. Even if your eyes are blinkered, even if the screen is blurry, even if there's sleights of hand and trickery and manipulation in what's being seen in the world, on our televisions, on our screens, on our media, you know, it's like you can see through the lies, you can see through the false filters, if you like, when you are clear in yourself, connected to your own truth, and able to sense and feel and see through the eyes of your heart. So from that place, make a choice. And then it doesn't feel like taking a side, actually. It just feels like Jen said, being authentic, following your heart, following what's in the highest good of all human beings, following the path of love. And really, love doesn't choose sides. Love doesn't only, you know, it's not like good people breathe and bad people don't. You know, it's like life doesn't say, well, I don't love you, you know, you're going to stop breathing. Life just loves everybody. Life gives us all this opportunity. And from the eyes of the heart, from the eyes of truth, there really is no dark and light. It's just all of us human beings, these beautiful souls in a body, walking through a journey of self-realization, understanding who we are and learning from contrast of what doesn't work for us, which gives us a bad past, a bad history, a lot of pain, and for us to go, finally, eventually, wake up, kids, come on, choose something different, align with something different, create something new here. And so I feel that we have this amazing opportunity, and it's all divinely guided, and all the things and the right people put in the right places at the right time with the right amount of social viewing, if you like, the right, you know, the internet is incredible. Everybody can see what's going on now. It's like, what an incredible time to have everything lined up so that we can actually create a new future and have this new timeline, this reality. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Fantastically, yes. So resonate with everything you said. And I think the two of you, you are both presenting what I would call a paradoxical consciousness, which is to take a side, to be authentic in that, but to also realize that there are no sides. You're not taking a side. You are going through the motions of something that's already occurred, as you said. And I think that's how I see this, and have tried to make this evident in the posts that I've been making. And I feel that if it were the case that you had two individuals in a competition, individual Mr. B and individual Mr. T, and that both of them genuinely had equal good and evil within them, if you will, and that there was not really a battle between good and evil playing out on the physical level, it was in both of them, you would then raise up to neutrality, and you wouldn't want to choose a side when both of those sides are as good as one another or as bad as one another. To choose a side would therefore be divisive. So it's based on the premise of, is this a battle between good and evil playing out on the physical level within us, and within each individual? Or is that also playing out within something like the American competition, within the actual individuals in the competition? Is Mr. B presenting as the evil force and Mr. T presenting as the good force? Are we looking at the demon and the angel, if you will? If so, then you absolutely would choose a side if you want to be authentic, because, and this is a good segue into the next part of our conversation, service to others and service to self. If you are polarizing within the positive, polarizing as service to others, you've already made a choice within your polarization. You've already chosen a side, metaphysically, galactically, and within all of source consciousness. Yes, you have the unity, and there is no polarization at all. There is no service to self, service to others, positive and negative, when you are unified. But the reason we are here, having a human journey, a physical journey, is to individualize as a God creator, if you will, within our own memory system that is at one with source, but is individualized from source. That's how source individualizes. So when we do that, we are already choosing a side. We are polarizing in the positive as service to others. Therefore, if that's playing out within the American competition, and you have one participant that represents a team or a group that is the service to self negative polarity, and the other individual in that competition representing the positive service to others polarity, we are naturally going to gravitate towards choosing a side. And that isn't divisive. That's what Jen said. That's being authentic. That is being in unity within a service to others positively polarized vibration. So the issue here is not whether we choose a side or if we're divisive. The issue is the premise. Which one is correct? Is good and evil being played out as a battle in the American competition as just one representation within two individuals that are both equal, both as good and as bad as one another? Is that the truth? Or is it that one is standing for the negative polarization and one is standing for the positive? That's where you need to go. That's your premise. Then you make all your other decisions around this on that premise. And I know that there are spiritual teachers out there that are teaching right now to rise above, don't be divisive, be in unity. That's because they are basing their entire information system on the premise that these are equal individuals, good and bad in both. That's why they're teaching what they're teaching, which is correct if the premise were correct. But what I'm saying, and what I think both of you are saying, is that is actually an incorrect premise in this particular presentation. The truth is that we do have one representative of a service to self negative polarization and a representative of a service to others positive polarization. Mr. T is the positive, Mr. B is the negative. That's the truth. If you don't agree with that premise, then you can't go with this, and that's absolutely fine. But you not agreeing with that premise does not mean that that premise is not correct. Because when you are seeing clearly, as you say, get clear those windows and look with that projector, that is what you will see. It is as obvious as the sun is in the sky and the sky is blue and the grass is green. That is obvious. You could go one step further and say, well, you're creating that reality for yourself by seeing it. Now that is also true, but we can create illusory realities that we think are true that don't match the actual reality that's playing out within the humanity's collective consciousness. So if you take the first premise, seeing this as something we must rise above and take a unified viewpoint with, because they're both equal, they're both as good and both as bad as one another, that is an illusory premise that we can build a reality within. But the reality that is playing out as clear as anything, that is fitting the uncovered layers of reality and showing the absolute raw truth, is that this is a battle between good and evil. And that, I think, is something that many have found difficult to understand, including spiritual teachers, which is why I make these statements. And it's not that I'm divisive, it's because I do choose a side. I absolutely do choose a side. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not choosing unity, because if you're in your positive polarization and you are choosing to go forward in enlightenment and spirituality, that choice of side is, as I was saying earlier, we're going into that flow, into the year of 2021, into the new earth. That new earth is a polarization. It's a polarization of the positive, of service to others. We've already chosen the side, and we chose that before we were born. This is just a representation of it. And at the same time, we do not cling on to it to the point where we're in resistance to the opposing occurring. So if Mr. B actually did truly win, or cheated or copied his opponent and he was the one that won, or whatever happened, we wouldn't be in resistance to that occurring, because that would instantly take us into polarity. That's where the issue is. We're in polarity when we're in resistance. We are not in a divisive polarity when we're still in flow and acceptance, because acceptance is a unified feeling. So I can honestly say for me that I don't think I've ever been as sure as anything in my life, in my psychic life, in my metaphysical spiritual life. You know, I've seen many events in front of me and then lived through them and watched them play out and seen what it is that I saw and what it meant. But sometimes you can see a reality in front of you and it's, well, maybe 50% this will occur and 50% this will occur. And it's rare to see something set and know it will occur. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you know with every fiber of your being that this is going to occur. And I have never been so sure of anything. And I'm talking about the ascension, the moving into new earth, the collapse of the old order, the being brought to light of all that has been hidden and nefarious and negative. And within that, the American competition. The winner has already won, if you will. Mr. T is the rightful winner. When it comes to the organic choosing the winner situation and the pieces of paper that everyone writes the winner on, that was the red wave. That was the landslide. That's for me is absolutely set in the ether. It's set in that realm. We are now watching it play out. We are now just living through that situation playing out. And that will all slot into place because that's the timeline we're moving into. And anyone who sits there and says, well, are you sure? And how are you sure? And it could be this and it could be that. When I look, there is no room for other than what is right and what is in alignment with the positive polarization, the service to others reality, the ascension timeline, which is Mr. T having 4 more years. And as Jen said, it'll be very different. Those 4 years will be very different. Absolutely they will, because the muck will have gone. They've moved the rug and swept under the rug and the floor will be clean underneath. And finally, he can actually do the job that he was chosen to do for the next 4 years. And in the beginning, 2021, there'll be a few little sorting out and rebuilding and reshuffling and changing. And that's happening now. But jobs will be done and things will be changed. And that is what takes us to the new earth and the ascension timeline. Because with the service to self individuals in that powerful position as the winner of the competition, they have the opposite agenda, the absolute polar opposite agenda, which is why people believe the complete opposite. They will believe this person, Mr. T, he's dangerous. He's doing all of these bad things. He's ruining the world and ruining America, and which is the polar opposite from what is actually true. So those who believe Mr. B is going to save everything, that's because they have taken the truthful reality and superimposed it onto themselves. So the service to self individuals are presenting a service to others. the negatively polarized individuals are presenting as the positive polarization. And unless you are able to see through the layers and see the depth behind the presentation, you are confused. And if you are relying on the television and the mainstream media situation, then you're going to be seeing the illusory presentation that is the false, fake version of reality. So that's why I make posts and statuses that appear to be divisive. It appears like I'm taking a side. And if you hold the premise that they're both equal, then that's how you will see me. And but I hope I've explained the way I see that. And I think that is a good segue into the other topic that we did want to look at, which is service to self and service to others, positive polarization, negative polarization, and unity, neutrality, and the fact that that whole concept can be interpreted very differently from different people, and it can be quite misunderstood. And it is an important concept to grasp. So, Jen,
Do you mind if
or Tara, I don't mind.
I'm sorry, no, before you go into that one, do you mind if I say something else about the American competition?
Yeah, please
do. Because you were talking, before we started recording, you were talking about your vision. I was asking you about what you know, you were telling me about your vision in the jacuzzi. And I always just kept having this feeling, like you, it's a done deal. It's won. And I did have a feeling that it would go to be weighed up in the scales of justice, that it wouldn't be an out clear thing, because that would have been an incredible split would have happened had the time of the competition, Mr. T, if he'd have won at the time of the competition, like immediately afterwards, and it was apparent for the world to see, there would have been a huge split, civil wars breaking, God knows what else going on. And when I was looking forward in the timeline, I was like, no, it's going to be really shady. There's all kinds of shades of purple and gray and everything in between there of what's going on. And I kept asking, is that part of the plan? And I got yes every single time. This is part of the plan. Because the thing is, certain people have a great care for humanity. And on the side of, let's say, love, the heart team, is a deep care for humanity and wanting to make a difference, but not to cause out and out war. It's not to create more separation. It's actually to lead a path of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of liberties, freedom of what we choose to do, freedom of our laws even. That's the path that's opening up, and that is set to open up for us with this side of, you know, with the Mr. T leadership. But it was going to be done, like everything, a little bit at a time. And so I did see it being weighed up in the justice, in the courts. And going forward, it's like, I have a feeling that even if it presents that the blue team win, it will be very temporary, because there are so many other strategies in the game plan, if you like, in the big plan. There's a huge overlay of a plan that's been set and has been put in place for many, many years, decades even, some of these moves, and a lot of them even in the last, well, eight years before coming into office, and then in the last 4 years. It's almost like seeing a game plan laid out when I look at it, like a template of things that are set to go off in the blueprint of the plans that have been laid, that are not in the public eye. Is this making sense? It's like it might look like in the chess game that there's a checkmate, but this player is so good at chess that actually that's a little sidetrack, because of everything else that's been laid that is going to get played out in the game for all to see. And that's got a specific timing for each one of those. And it's because of the care for human beings, for humanity, that it's been done that way. Because like we all know with the spiritual awakening, if you suddenly see the light and you're in complete oneness all of a sudden and you had no experience of that before, it's like you don't know how to compute. You're thrown from darkness into light immediately, and it's really destructive. It's damaging, right? And you have to backtrack and then redo that journey. Now, it's kind of similar with this. On the grounded, physical, practical level, it has to be revealed a bit at a time, and it has to be done in such a way as the whole of humanity doesn't go into a deep state of shock and huge grief because of that care is being taken. That's my personal feeling. That's what I see. That's what I feel. And I think all of us, we all have the right to share our truth at the end of the day. And it's not about trying to hurt anybody or separate anybody. It's very the opposite, isn't it? It's like when we come from that place of love and that we want that highest good for ourselves and all of humanity, and we want a time of peace, of course we're not going to come from a divisive place to hurt people and to just create separation. It's like, who thinks like that? And if anybody does think like that,
Mira,
I've lost Tara's sound. Tara, can you hear? We've lost your sound. Yeah, I've lost your sound completely.
So weird.
Can you hear me, Jen?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
You can hear us both, can you, Tara?
Oh, Tara's back. I think she's back.
Yeah.
Ah, excellent. Okay, so
did you?
we'll
Sorry,
edit that. We'll edit that out. I was hoping we could have it organic,
girls.
but it's just that sometimes happens. We'll edit that out.
Which part did you hear? Which part did it stop?
Just the last little bit that you were saying. So if you want to just pick up.
Oh, I was just saying, so if anybody feels that any of us are being divisive and manipulative and trying to separate people and hurt people and cause more divide, or even anybody else, I would just, if that's you and that's what you're feeling, and you're feeling hurt and you're feeling angry, I would just say, bless you. Please look inside at your own hurt, at the cause, at the root of that distrust that's been wedged inside of your heart, that's caused you that fear and that trauma, that's making you want to lash out and blame somebody else for causing something that really they're not, and that somebody else caused that for you at some point, probably when you were a little kid, and that sounds like a broken heart that needs healing. And bless you. Just go and have a look at your own heart. Have a look at that, and maybe over time the wounds will heal. And everything that we all want the same thing, don't we, girls? We all want peace on earth. Very few people don't want peace on earth. And even those people, I think, that look like they don't want peace on earth, that they are service to self, that they are destructive, that they, want to have everything and own everything. I think in a way that's their messed up version of trying to get peace on earth. It's like, get rid of everybody and then we'll have peace, It's a bit of a messed up version, but I think we all want that peace.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Really, really wise words. And I totally resonate with everything you said. And I agree that it can't be one great big shock. It's not like everything will come out all at once. It's going to be a ripple effect. I think it will be in a sort of a concentrated period. And we are talking about, December potentially. But it's going to be at a pace that would be delivered in a way that individuals could at least attempt to deal with, rather than one great big hit with everything. And you mentioned the vision in the jacuzzi, and for anyone who doesn't know what Tara is meaning, rather than me going through it again, I had this visionary state in the jacuzzi. I think being in water is a psychic conductor. The jacuzzi is round, it's a whirlpool, so you are in a sacred circle, sort of within that Stargate energy. And I find that when I'm in that situation, I get visionary states coming up through the bubbles. So I call the jacuzzi my little ice cauldron, and often I'll sit next to Daniel and I'll tell him what I'm seeing in the bubbles. And had this visionary experience regarding the American competition and the pieces of paper that you write on when you choose the winner, and the pieces of paper and how many are red and how many are blue and what happened there. So if you want to know about that vision that Tara is referencing, I discussed that in my recent interview with Laura Eisenhower. So if you just go back to that interview with Laura, that's where I talk about that. And I think I talk about that fairly close to the beginning of the interview. So Jen, you know, service to self, service to others, negative polarization, positive polarization, and unity, neutrality. What do you think about the concept itself of service to others and service to self, and how it plays out in this reality?
Really, great subject matter, and it's something that comes up quite a lot in my teaching, because so much, like Tara, so much of my work has been about really embodying the reality of self-love, and sort of like taking this idea of self-love out of this kind of superficial thing of like, you know, being a vegan and doing yoga and doing this and that and the other, to actually really meeting your own shadow self and realizing that you are the one that you are searching for, and you are the one who can resolve all of your trauma within your own energetic field. And so when we actually, you know, do this work and understanding that we have different aspects. So for myself, I understand that I have a parental aspect, I have a wounded child aspect. And so I can send my parental self to my wounded child to stand underneath her and hold space for her and really listen to her and check in with her and say, what is it that you need? And when I do that, invariably, she just says, I just wanted to be heard. I just wanted to be validated. And that's it. Nothing more is needed. So that really, to me, is what self-love. Self-love is about really being there for yourself and stopping that projection onto another person or to something external outside of you, that they're going to come in and be a balm and sort of like, you know, remove all your issues, because only we can do that through the alchemy of our own soul process and soul evolution. So I also speak a lot about boundaries and about how, like, self-love, the rubber meets the road with self-love, to do with how vigilant we are with our boundaries. And we each have a responsibility to be guardian of our precious child self, our divine child self. And we do that by having vigilant boundaries and not allowing toxic energy into our sacred space. So self-love is it's absolutely fundamental. It's like the major cornerstone of spirituality. You literally cannot grow spiritually without that foundation. But yet also within my teaching, I speak so much about service to others, how when you're truly awakened, you are just really orientated towards serving others. But you can't serve others until you serve yourself, until you are really, you know, there with yourself and loving yourself and having those boundaries and doing the shadow work. You're not at a position to be orientated towards service to others. So they literally go hand in hand. And I think that as we do this deep work of you know, connecting with our unconscious child self, and we actually experience this alchemy where we transform the wounded lead of the child self into the golden alchemy of the healed Christed self, when we actually go through that alchemical process, we are that is the great work, that is the great magnus opus of the soul. And then we are in a position to serve, and we cannot serve up until we really have done that work. So but I speak a lot about service to self. So if you've got that solid foundation of self-love, then you're really ready to go out and serve others. And it reminds me of this guy. I met this guy recently, and you know, he had a lot of depression. And I said to him, I was like, what have you done for other people recently? And he said, oh, I haven't really done anything. I said, do you want to clear your depression? And he said, yeah. I said, think about how you can help other people. I said, there are 7 billion people on this planet that are suffering from PTSD, from being in the matrix. Like, you could be so helpful. You could be so kind. You could be so effective if you actually think about other people. And I really noticed something shift in him when I said that. And I genuinely do believe that is the antidote to depression, is serving other people. And but you have to have that container where you understand that you are a precious divine child, and Mother, Father, God gave you the job to be the parent of your child self, not your twin flame, not a guru, not an external teacher. You are the parent. And if you can actually seal that relationship, then you're pretty much home and dry. And then it is all about service to others. So that's what I reckon.
Yeah, so wise, and I totally resonate. And you've really explained how service to others and service to self works as you go through the experience of a spiritual journey, and how you live that energy. So, you know, thank you. That was amazing, Jen. Tara, what do you think of the service to self, service to others concept?
Yeah, thanks for raising it, Magenta. It's really, really important. And basically everything Jen said, you know, that's the whole purpose of the I love you, me method. It's a step-by-step conversation that your big me can have with your little me, and be seen, be heard, be held, be empathized with, be really got on the level that you haven't yet had, on that level that you've spent your whole life waiting for somebody else to do for you. And here's this time where it's like, yeah, you be your own hero. It's time for you to be the hero of your own movie. And the problem is a lot of people don't know how, do they, Jen? It's like, they're like, yeah, I get the concept. I've heard of this thing called self-love, but it's like, it's just an idea, because so many of us, if not all of us, have been raised in a world of absolutely conditioned to death versions of love. And, you know, a selfish, you know, vain, self-obsessed, narcissistic perception of self-love, that's not love at all. That's not what love is. Love doesn't do that. And so where do we look to for our guide? Where do we look to for our teacher of what love is and service is? Real service, real love. Where do we look? Some people look to Jesus or Gandhi or Mother Teresa, but wonderful as those people are or were, that was massively sacrificial. The stories that we were told anyway about certain saviors, the story version, is all, you know, very sacrificial and is not very duplicatable, is it? We can't all, you know, be a savior, be a Christ, a Jesus, and end up on a cross. We can't be a Gandhi and end up starving ourselves and, you know, dying for. That's not service. That is not service to others, in my opinion. I mean, back in that time, yes, it looks like a good example, and bless those souls, they did an incredible thing. However, we can't all go around doing that. That's not sustainable. And I feel that we have to understand this shift as service to others as not being a self-sacrifice. We cannot be a martyr and think that that's serving the highest good. Not anymore. I think maybe that was true. It definitely doesn't feel true for me now. And all of us that have been raised, you know, I've got to the age that we have, the age that I am now. I know, you know, it was massively ingrained that you put others first, and you run yourself into the ground, you bear the wounds, you bear the scars, you don't complain about it, you just get on with it. And it's almost like you have to be seen to be suffering, but putting on a brave face, and burn yourself out in order to be seen as a good, loving, serving person. And that to me was complete insanity. I grew up in that. I grew up in a healing center. You know, my parents have been in spirituality and service to others and healing my entire life. And I just saw incredible poverty, a lot of illness, a lot of suffering, relationship breakdown. And me, I just didn't want to be alive as a kid. I just was like, this isn't love. This kind of, it feels like love, right? When you're being that person in service. My parents were good, loving people, as I'm sure many people watching this are. They want to help. But however, when you do it without that foundation of knowing what real unconditional love and service is, because you haven't had it for yourself, you've lacked it your whole life. It's like we're doing something from a good intention rather than from an actual foundation of reality. I hope this is making sense. So it's really important. This is why we get all our clients coming to us, guys, who are completely burnt out. And it's like, okay, you need to love yourself. Fill your cup. Heal. Be that big person for your inner child. Be the one that loves your little me in exactly the way that you didn't get it and exactly the way that you need it. Be the most loving parent. And when you fill up all those holes and you fill up your cup so that you can receive love, then you become overflowing. It's it's cheesy, but it's true. You become an overflowing vessel. And then giving to others just seems to happen because you're doing what gives you the most joy. And it's not a martyrdom, it's not a sacrifice. And actually it's energizing, So that feels really important for everyone to understand. And just redefine what we think service is. And by the way, where I learned the unconditional self-love is from Source itself, is from this breath that gives life to us in every single moment. It's like, that's a really good example of unconditionality, So in getting in touch with the breath and learning from the breath, that's how to give, that's how to serve, that's how to receive, that's how to love. And it's just a beautiful place for anyone to start. It's the perfect place to start in learning how to love yourself.
Oh, thank you, Tara. I love the way that the whole service to others, service to self, and self-love is so in alignment with your work, your I Love You Me work. And although you'd spoken about it before a little bit, and when we met, you spoke about it a little bit, but when I really got to see the template of your work was when you did the interview with John Mappin for Camelot TV, and you talked a lot about I Love You Me. And I could sort of see the template of it and how important it is and how it is the foundation for you to build everything else on. You've both given absolutely brilliant explanations of what I would call the experiential journey of what service to self and service to others means, how service to self and service to others are one, and how you cannot serve others until you serve self, because self and other are one. You've both given wonderful examples of that. And as you say, Tara, it's extremely important for people to understand. I think the reason why maybe people get confused with the work that I put out is when the 9 speak about service to others and service to self, they're not necessarily discussing the experiential journey that we go through. They are speaking about service to self and service to others as a frequency, as a polarization, as in negative and positive, as in a frequency that stands as a representation of the duality of the universal structure itself. So how they would explain it is service to, let's say, service to others would hold the frequency. It's a positive polarization. So it would hold the frequency of unconditional love, compassion, romantic love, helping others, all that is good and caring and light. That is what service to others would be. And you've explained the experiential journey of what service to others is, and the self-love that's needed in order to allow that to flourish. And how they would explain service to self is the negative polarization, which is, if you look at service to others, it's the open heart, and it is the alignment of all the chakras together, living in that higher heart. But with service to self, it is an activation, a spiritual journey, and an activation of the solar plexus power center, the third eye, brow chakra, epiphanies and insight, with a repressed heart, a closed heart. And the reason why that is done is because a service to self journey is about control. It's about control of self, and it's about control of other, or control of others. That's the polarization. That's the spiritual journey that soul, or the soul has chosen to experience in its incarnational journey. From the higher viewpoint, from source, there is no negative and positive. One finds unity, but it's all about individualization and choosing the path to individualize. And each service to others and service to self holds a paradigm. And service to others hold the paradigm of you, Jen, Tara, you are both me. You are my other selves. We are all one. And because I love myself, I love you. And because I love you, I love myself. And I want nothing more than to serve you and not harm you and unify with you, because we are all one. Whereas service to self would be, Jen and Tara, I can recognize you as other individuals, but you are both me. And as long as I exist, then source exists, and it doesn't matter whether you exist or not, because you're not real. Only I am real. That's the service to self paradigm. That's the mentality. So this is why we are looking right now at this playing out in this reality with the American competition and the two agendas that these factions hold. One is of service and for the growth of America and thus the world. And the other is control, because it doesn't matter if you harm other people or a whole country or even a planet, as long as you exist, because there is only one soul. So from service to others, there's one soul and we're all it. So we love each other. From service to self, there's one soul and I am it. The others don't exist. It's kind of, a bit solipsism. It's a little bit sort of psychopathic. But they are spiritual polarizations. They are choices of experience that a soul chooses to experience when they go into an incarnation or series of incarnations. So when the nines speak about service to self and service to others, that's what they're meaning. They are showing this extreme polarity. And if you like, we could look at Mr. B and Mr. T. Mr. B being service to self, Mr. T being service to others. With Mr. B, it's different. And as you said, Jen, when you tune in on Mr. B, there's nothing there. That's because Mr. B is in a state of degeneration and is not in a state of healing. Therefore, he is not necessarily a representation of service to self. His service to self energies would have been his past and who he was in the past. He's no longer that polarization of service to self anymore, because he is in a state of degeneration. He has a health condition affecting his memory. You know, we can call that dementia if we want. That's kind of where he is. So he's changing in his energy field. And it's almost like, if you will, the two different people. There's the old Mr. B, which would have been a service to self polarization, or a soul trying to polarize. It's very, very difficult to polarize as negative, as service to self, but that's what he would have been. The person he is now is actually vulnerable because he doesn't have his faculties in a cohesive memory structure. If you want more of an example of the service to self-polarization or beings attempting to polarize, then you would look at the female HC, who was in the last 2016 competition, or you would look at Mr. B's counterpart, KH, and others as well within that structure. I mean, there's a guy, CS, one of the you know, in their group. If you, his first name, there is an American sneaker company that's got a star on it, and it's called All Stars, if you know what I mean. Converse, the Converse sneaker, the most popular one is called C, and that's the same as his name, CS. That's a perfect representation of someone attempting to polarize the service to self and doing a really good job of it. Over in the UK, we have Mr. MH. He's doing a pretty good job of polarizing the service to self. I wouldn't necessarily say any of these have fully done it, because it is really, really difficult. They have to be extremely concentrated with the element of control, and it has to be absolutely cohesive. So it's very difficult. But with service to others, once we've taken a path of enlightenment, it's much easier because you open your heart. It's much more difficult for a human soul, and even if these souls are of other races and whatever that may be, they're still incarnated as human soul, and it's much more difficult to shut the heart down. Now, many individuals have a closed heart, but they're not polarizing as service to self. They have a closed heart through trauma, which you covered, Tara, in what you were saying. So they manifest in a service to self behavior because of the trauma, but they're still attempting to polarize as service to others, because once they go through the healed trauma, as you so well described, they'll start to open the heart. So I think that's the difference. The 9 aren't necessarily talking about the experiential journey that we go through. They're talking about the polarization as a frequency. But it is very important to know that service to others, which is what most people watching this, not all, I do have other ears listening in to my material, I'm aware of that, but the majority, the great majority, 99%, are positively polarized service to others individuals. And I think it's important to know that service to others, as we're all on that journey, it doesn't mean serve others and forget about yourself. And that's a mistake that many, many people make. And I won't say it's a mistake, it's a paradigm that people take and feel that in order to be spiritual, they've got to serve other people. And women do it especially. It's like, well, this is my husband, I'm serving him, and these are my children, I'm serving them, forget about me. And I'm being really good because I'm in service. So there's a place in heaven for me because I've been so good. And yet the one person you must not ignore is self. You serve self as if you were your own best friend. As Jen said, as you said about the big me and the little me, and as you were saying, Jen, about the mother and the child, that's the experiential journey that is service to others. And it's so important. And if people don't get that, go rewind this, go back and listen to Jen again, what she said, listen to Tara again, what she said, because they are explaining the service to others journey and how it's service to self and service to others simultaneously, because self and other are one. But that is not the same thing that the 9 teach when they discuss service to others and service to self, which are polarizations of frequency as the dualistic, as far away from source as you can get frequency that plays out here on Earth. None of us really need to understand the service to self journey when we are polarizing as service to others. The only reason why we've been bought into the service to self journey and we have to look at it is because they are attacking us. We, the service to others group, are under attack by the service to self. And that is not being divisive, that is stating a fact. It's not fear-mongering, it's stating a fact. It's what's happening. That doesn't mean we have to live in fear, because when we're truly in that power, we come up, we move away from that battle, and we turn that back into the love of self and other. We take the service to others journey, which allows us to be able to deal with the attack. We neutralize it. And then we come back to the heart and we use it as a boost into our own creativity. And that is what is happening, which is why the new Earth is so powerfully visible for all of us in 2021 and in many ways now, because that service to self attack, if you will, has been a huge catalyst collectively for us to polarize into that new Earth, that new world. So that's why this is such an important topic, because it's intertwined with everything that we are as souls on our journey, and also intertwined with everything that's going on the physical level. And in your face, the #1 event that's really playing that out is the American competition. So I don't know if either of you wanted to add to that, or did you want to go on to another topic?
I just wanted to add just something quickly about what you were saying about that whole martyrdom thing. I think it's really, really important that what you were saying about a lot of women have that program where, you know, they'll basically just endlessly serve and be kind of abused, really, and everyone just say, oh yeah, they just serve, that's what they do, and they're thinking to themselves, oh, you know, I'll get my reward in heaven. but you won't get your reward in heaven, because you're not coming from an authentic, empowered place. Like, we all have to do the work to identify these limited programs that say we should be doing anything. Like, what you should be doing is looking after your beautiful, divine, precious self. That is what you should be doing. Like, if there isn't any shoulds, but if there's any should, that is it. And you shouldn't be doing anything else, because everything else springs from that beautifully pure and aligned place. So I think it's really, really important. This comes up for me all the time in my sessions with my clients, this addiction to being a martyr, and you're not going to get any rewards for it. You're not going to get any gold stars. You're actually going to hold back your evolutionary process. So if you're watching this and you've learned it from your mother or your grandmother, which you probably did, which we all did, then now would be a really good time just to check yourself. And you're under no obligation to keep on serving people that like take advantage of you and don't appreciate you. Like, you are choosing that. So I would say, are you really choosing that? Is it an unconscious choice? Well, if it's an unconscious choice, let's make it conscious. Are you really choosing that? And that is the awakening path, taking that which was unconscious and making it conscious. And that is the awakening path. And when you do that, you take steps towards your higher self, towards aligning with your higher self, with the benevolent flow of creation. When you make those little adjustments, and then you start raising your vibration, you start transforming your timeline, you start attracting synchronistic meetings, meetings of destiny. Your life starts changing when you make those little shifts, those subtle shifts of dropping that victim ancestral narrative, and actually coming from a place that's truly empowered and authentic. I want to say that.
Absolutely. So very, very important. Thank you, Jen. And what I would say to women who are feeling like this is, don't think you've made a mistake. No, because every woman I know, including myself, has been through this.
100%.
I went through this too. It's like, I must serve. I'm a woman. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm here for this person. I'm here for that person. If I'm not helping others, if I'm not being a wife, a mother, a best friend, a daughter, a sister, if I'm not doing that, then I'm failing in some way. I think it is part of the female path. We move into this, it's a program that's been running out, you know, on this planet, a deliberate hijack program. And we come into this space of disempowerment and feeling as though we don't have any right to want the things that we want, because women have had this sort of subservient energy, because we've been in a patriarchal society globally, which is a hijacking. So don't feel that you've failed if you're going through that, but that's changing now. And I'm not saying we're now moving into a matriarchal reality. That is a service to self structure as well. It's the distortion. Either you have an aggressive, manipulative female at the helm, or an aggressive, controlling male at the helm. They're both distortions. The divine feminine and the divine masculine is a unification, and only when the female comes into the empowerment, then the male finds the balance, and vice versa. It happens at the same time. So yes, Jen, that is really important. And don't anyone think you're failing if you feel that way, because it's part of this journey that we're going through. And I don't know a single woman who hasn't been through that. So I don't know if you wanted to add any more, Tara, but the other...
Yeah, just a little bit, if that's okay. I know.
I know. But there were two other topics we decided to look upon. One was twin flames and the significance of the twin flame energy right now at this point of 2020 going into 2021, and all the energies with it. And I know that, Jen, you are kind of specializing in that topic, and you're writing a book about that topic right now. And the other topic was what was the other topic? Oh yes, when we first made a connection with the higher self aspect, or extraterrestrial energy, guidance, archangel, and we perceived that as an outside aspect of ourselves, communicating with us and teaching us the teaching journey that we go through. When did we first come to the realization of the service to self factions on this planet, the dark, the negative on this planet. How did that come into our sphere? Was it through the connection with the higher self aspect? And if so, how did they kind of break it to us that this is what we were here for? It's not just about love and light and meditation under a willow tree, but we're actually bringing down a structure that's been in place on this planet for millennia. Or did this come to you through a different means? You know, did this come to you simply through synchronicity research, someone else, or was it through the higher guidance? So they were the other two subjects that we talked about maybe touching on. So Tara, wherever you want to take that.
Yeah, I'm going to link all of them actually, because it's beautiful the way it all loops up. So coming back to what you were talking about, this service to self and service to others, and you said it, Magenta, the service to self, anti-life, if you like, soul, kind of soulless, that really difficult. It is super hard for a soul to become that against itself, that against its own source and own creation. That is a hard role to play, so that we can know by contrast and experience the opposite. And I just want to say, for those people that have incarnate as service to self and are having to hold an incredibly hard job so that we can learn, and those are the ones that have hijacked this, our power of saying, okay, women, serve others, empty yourself, become dry, exhausted, diminished, sacrificial, you know, fodder, if you like, for the masculine and for the world. And men just become selfish, withhold, don't serve, don't give. You're so lacking, so unworthy anyway. You've got nothing to give. What have you got to give? Nobody, you know, you're not loved. It's like that polarization of the masculine and feminine that we've been living with for a long time has actually, it is the agenda of the service to self. It has been hijacked. And so on one hand, bless those souls that are having to do that job, because in their higher self, when I look at their higher self, it's like, whoa, what a powerful soul to choose to do that. I just feel a lot of love and compassion and gratitude, because that's how we're evolving and that's how we're learning. Someone's got to do that dirty work. It's not nice on the ground, it's bloody horrible. And yet, thank you. So bless their souls, really, really bless them. But when it comes to the masculine and feminine, we women are actually in our power when we do the complete opposite. When we reverse what we've been programmed to do and actually do put ourselves first and actually learn how to receive again. Because when we are receiving, we're being in our feminine. We are physically and energetically and emotionally in every which way designed to be receivers. That's why a lot of us are really much more psychic and intuitive, because we're receivers and we must receive to be in our power. And when we take responsibility for ourselves first, that's when, with great power or with great responsibility comes great power. That's when we're in our greatest element. That's when we can serve others, because we've reversed that programming of so many lifetimes. And the men out there, you guys are in your power when you reverse your program and realizing you are worthy, you have so much to give, your strength is needed, your light is needed, and you need to give on this planet. You need to serve the women and the children and Mother Earth. You need to give everything you've got and stop holding it back, thinking you're scared of, you know, being abused or manipulated and scared of, you know, whatever. No, you have to give. So when the masculine are giving and the feminine are receiving, coming into the twin flame energy, Jen, it's like everything works. And that polarization, that reverse programming of the polarization coming into divine divine polarization. You know, in order to understand source, we go back to our origins. Source first created masculine, feminine. And it was very polarized so that the masculine and feminine could create children, could create earth and humanity and everything that we know. So we are having to actually polarize into our divine masculine and divine feminine, into our receiving and into our giving. And that's how everything physically works, right? Everything on this level works as a masculine and feminine. And so learning this journey, taking that journey of unconditional self-love, learning to reverse that programming in me and serve myself as I would my most beloved, as I would serve God, and receive the gift that I am and receive life and learn how to receive love from other people, has enabled me to come back into alignment with my twin flame, who I met about 9.5, nearly 10 years ago. It was like so powerful. For the first time in my life, I met my equal and my opposite, my exact equal and opposite. And it was really hard because he was not in a place of self-love and I was not in a place of self-love, and I was in a place of giving and burning out and exhaustion, and he was in a place of withholding because we were following the program, we're following that conditioning. So even though we loved each other and our souls recognized one another on so many levels, and it was like that chemistry was there, our conditioning kept us like missing each other, like two magnets that want to be drawn together, and then kept going like that. And it was through taking that journey, both of us, him in his way, me in my way, you know, let your men do their own works, sisters, is what I want to say, you know, let them do it their way. Don't try and do it, you know, tell them how to do it. I did it my way. I actually wrote the book for my partner, and, you know, he never read it, but I wrote that for him and then learned how to love myself because I wrote that book. It was amazing. Took my own medicine. And it was because of that, coming back into the polarization of how I'm designed to be as a female, and him coming back into his power as a man and opening his heart so that he could feel worthy again to give, and me being worthy enough to receive, is what has brought us back together again. And I have to say, everything that Jen said about self-love, absolutely crucial. You know, everything. It's like, I know myself, I am myself, I'm authentic and true to myself, I love myself. And in that unconditional love vibration, then that our divine match comes into our life, and we're ready to be with them, we're ready to evolve together, we're ready to move forward. And it's incredibly wonderful. And the other part, I'll come back to you later, Magenta. You're talking about our gifts in the beginning, and I'll share how I learned all of this. But I want to hear what you guys have to say first.
Oh, Tara, that's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, to share your romantic love story. I'm really glad you touched on that, because as we were saying off camera, every twin flame journey on the physical level with one's divine counterpart, it is a love story. It's the kind of love story you'd watch in the old sort of Hollywood movies or read in a romantic book, and we live that when we're in that energy. So really profound and really wise words, especially about the receiving and the withholding, and how the masculine energy has to go through the journey and learn to come into their power, and so does the female. This is what's happening right now. That's all part of the new earth, coming into one's power with one's divine counterpart, with the one individual on the planet who is matching us in the most profound way that we would need at that time. And when it's a planetary completion and coming into new earth, then that time, that energy is the love story, because it's part of the whole abundant journey. So all of the games and the learning and the dramas that we've played out for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime is now coming to the culmination. And finally, that's when you do reunite, if you will, with the divine counterpart. And that can occur for you if you are single, can occur for you if you're in a polygamous family, polygamous relationship, and in a monogamous one-on-one. It's an energetic as well, and it matches the frequency in multiple different ways. The most traditional being two individuals in a relationship. But yeah, thank you for sharing your love story. So Jen, you know, what's your feeling on those topics, twin flame, and how you came to know about the dark side of reality, and the fact that we're here to be a team bringing down the old structure, if you will, and moving into new earth, rather than just sort of love, light and meditation, you know, wherever you want to go with that subject.
Well, it's such a big subject for me, because it feels like it's one of the main areas that I've sort of incarnated to speak about. So as I don't know if everyone knows, but I got taken off Facebook and Instagram last week, and basically, you know, that was a really big thing. I'd been devotedly building up my platform for like well over 12 years, and but what happened was, when that happened, I basically, it really inspired me to start writing my book. And so I've started writing my book now, which is about twin flames and their specific role in this planetary ascension. So I've written 16,000 words in about 5 days, and it's just absolutely, completely and utterly just flowing like water. And I've been really going very, very deeply into this whole subject matter. And basically, in a lot of my work that with twin flames, a lot of the core separation that twin flames experience happened at the time of Atlantis. This is what I was shown, that at the time of Lemuria, the 144,000 twin flames incarnated, and we actually seeded this lifetime where this would be the fruit of the seeds that were planted at the time of Lemuria. And the 144,000 twin flames all incarnated at the time of Atlantis as well. But there was a cataclysm that occurred where nefarious energies entered into Atlantis, and that actually caused a separation between the twin flames. And so in my work, a lot of the trauma that I help my clients heal, it always roots back to Atlantis. Like they'll be having, you know, issues from different lifetimes, but if you follow the branch of that lifetime, almost invariably the root of the trauma of the split happens at the time of Atlantis. So a lot of the work that I do is about restoring that timeline and reminding us all of our multidimensionality, and that as multidimensionally awakened avatars, we actually have a duty and a responsibility to go and transform lifetimes where there has been trauma that has been stored, that has caused like us to freeze on an etheric level. Because when we freeze, it creates a block with the energy flow between us and our higher self. So we have a duty to actually do this timeline recorrection work. And so a lot of the work that I work with my clients is to do with the timeline of Atlantis. And my guide showed me that, because I lead these large global ceremonies where up to 500 people will come, this is like a lot of brothers and sisters holding these grid points, and this very, very, very deep work to happen on these like auspicious dates. So I was shown that a lot of preparation work is happening now, between now and the 21st of December, with regards to the twin flames. And that there is a whole wave of twin flames that are coming into physical union in this particular ascension window. And so I've been guided to facilitate this ceremony whereby we restore this Atlantis timeline, not only on a personal level, but on a collective level, where we actually go in there and we hold space to recorrect that trauma that happened to all of us, particularly the 144,000 awakened starseeds at the time of Atlantis. And that's going to be on the 22nd of the 11th in a couple of weeks. And I just really want to let everyone know, because if you're drawn to me and Tara and Magenta, then this work will definitely serve you, because the Atlantis trauma really, really is the core trauma for so many of us. And that is what is creating these splits and these blocks in our relationship. And the divine feminine very often has this very, very deep fear of abandonment, like very extremely deep fear of abandonment. And a lot of the divine masculines have a fear of shame and guilt around their masculinity and around the fact that they left. So all of this work is about really, really healing those core wound issues. And this is what I'm speaking about in my book. So it's just so amazing that, you know, that this has all happened really with Facebook, and it's actually inspired me to write my book. So just wanted to let everyone know about that the twin flame was there anything about twin flames? I mean, what I'd say about twin flames in this particular window is that many twin flames are coming into recognition, and a lot of the divine masculines that were in denial of who their true twin is, they are getting harassed by their higher self at the moment. They're getting dreams, they're getting synchronicities, they're getting visitations. They can no longer stuff it under the carpet, the fact of what their soul knows, because a lot of the masculines, they forgot the memo about the divine relationship. It was so challenging and treacherous incarnating in the third dimension that they entirely forgot that God had put into the plan, you're going to meet your best friend throughout all of eternity. They you know, so a lot of the masculines are invested in this survival vibration. Like they're very happy in their comfort zones because at least they're surviving. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, their higher self is not going to be tolerating that anymore, and if they're really staying quite stuck in their comfort zones, they will receive very large boots up the backside. So that is my little sort of like energetic insight to what's going to be happening as we lead up to this 21st of December. There's going to be a huge amount of recognition and awakening, and people truly awakening to their divine counterpart. So that's part one. And part two, shall I go on to that? Part two?
Please do.
Well, I had my spiritual awakening when I was 21, but prior to that, I read the book when I was 18 by Shakti Gawain, Creative Visualization. Best book ever, changed my life. I was 18 years of age and I read this book, and in this book she connects you to your higher self and she connects you to your guides. And so straight away I met the masculine and the feminine polarity aspects of myself, and she says to them, oh, just ask them their name. And I was like, oh, what's your name? And the masculine polarity said, my name is Christopher, and the feminine polarity said, my name is Elijah. And so that would be probably Magenta the first time that I met the higher aspect consciousness, wouldn't it? Like that, there was no other time prior to that I had a direct meeting, and then subsequent many synchronicities that came out of that to prove the efficacy of that and the validity of that. So, and then I had my spiritual awakening, and then I met all the masters. When my third eye blasted open up on the mountain, then I saw first of all, I saw Archangel Michael, I saw Yeshua, Magdalene, Gandhi, John Lennon, Bob Marley, Krishna, Babaji, and there was a few more that I couldn't recognize, but they were the ones that I could actually identify and recognize. And they all celebrating. They're like, yeah, one soul's woken up. That's no mean feat for like one soul to wake up. And they were like cheering with their maracas. So I think that was my first true meeting with ascended beings, was when my third eye blasted open on top of the mountain.
Wow.
But
that's really interesting.
But the thing is, so I was totally awake, and then I got back to the West and I was like, what's going on? Like, we're all so divine. Why isn't the world reflecting our divinity? Like, what's going on with the media and everything? And then I was like, oh, maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know. They just don't know that we're divine. And then it took me a little bit of time to work out that they did know, and they were actually like on a major mission to withhold that information from us. But it wasn't until, because I had my awakening in 95, and it wasn't till at least, I don't know, like 2002 that I think I came across David Icke. And as soon as I read David Icke, I was like, boom, 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 everything just came together. But I intuitively knew, but he was like, he named it. So he was my red pill, really.
Wow, that's so interesting. I haven't heard you speak about that before. I absolutely agree with what you're saying about the Atlantean program as well, and the hijackings that occurred there, and the splits that occurred there, and with the same respect, the seeding of the golden age and the new earth that occurred there as well. So Atlantis is hugely significant right now, and I guess you could say what we're coming into now is the new Atlantis, which is why everything is playing out in America predominantly, because, well, the nine say America's the central point of the new Atlantis, or is the new Atlantis in and of itself, in the way that it is manifesting. with me regarding coming to the awareness of the dark, negative side of reality, you know, I'd read things before. I'd heard things. I'd read the Barbara Marciniak Bringers of the Dawn. I read David Icke's first book around the time when I first started channeling. But anything that was negative or nefarious, it didn't really register with me. I didn't really get what it was. I was far more invested in the love and the opening of the heart and the meditation and the transcendent side of things. You know, so it's going through more of a transcendent experience. And when you do that, you often come down to earth with a bump, which is what happened to me, to pull me off that sort of lack of integration of the ego, if you will, in the early days. So nothing really registered with me that there was a nefarious darkness, regardless of what was coming into my reality, which is how so many people are now. You can tell them and look them in the eyes and actually say to them, this is happening, this is happening. It simply does not register. If you aren't ready to truly see that, it doesn't register when it's right in front of you, which is what we're going to go through for many, many individuals over the coming weeks in December. And when these revelations come out, individuals won't be able to believe those revelations because they can't process them. So just like you, Jen, it was several years later into my spiritual journey, I'd been speaking to the spiritual entities, White Spirit, from 1993. And it was, I think, around the year late 2007, early 2008, when I was picking up that there was that spirituality wasn't all just love and light and fluffy bunnies, but it still hadn't really sat with me fully. It was the very first channeling that I did, which I uploaded here on YouTube. It's called Conversation with the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of Nine. If you go right back to my very first video, it was that information that really brought it home to me. And it was when the Nine said, they were speaking about ascension, and it was when they said, there are those who would prevent or halt, I don't remember which word they used, there are those who would prevent your ascension journey. And I remember that really, really sinking in and me questioning them, saying, really? Who on earth would want to prevent our ascension? Why would anyone want to stop us ascending? I don't understand. When ascension is what we must do as souls, why would anyone want to prevent that? I was shocked. And that is when the Nine started to introduce this other agenda and this darker faction, which then sort of went on from there. So really, it was the channeling I brought forward that taught me this. Despite the fact that I'd heard of these things before, nothing registered until it came from the Nine. And I think, you know, with the people that are going to go through this journey, even if they're faced with something, nothing makes sense until it comes from themselves. So there is a huge, huge purging and a huge journey that is going to occur. And I think, you know, Tara, you said you see this going on, and I absolutely do as well. For those individuals, we're looking at around 3 or 4 years, potentially longer, for those individuals to come into an awareness of what their own self is telling them, rather than what they're seeing in their outside reality, and being able to integrate it. Because when they've done that, everybody starts to individualize, and then they can come into unity. And it's hard to pinpoint a date, but I would say potentially it's a decade from now before we are in a full unified consciousness on this planet. And that is when we are in full fifth dimension on a physical level. But that's globally. The awakened individuals are coming into that now. They will go into it much earlier, and it will feel like a unified reality for us, because we will be in the synchronicity of continuously being drawn into that new earth. So it won't feel like there isn't a unity for us other than what we're witnessing with others, but we won't be experiencing it. And that's kind of happening now, really, for the awakened individuals. They are already heart-centered and have been for a while, but that's going somewhat off topic. So I think we probably should wrap this up as we've been chatting for ages. But Tara, if you want to, you know, have the last word here and take us out with your experiences of how you came to the realization of the dark side. I know that Archangel Michael came to you with the information for I Love You Me, and that's a beautiful story. And I Love You Me is, you know, all about the healing. So there really isn't any, as far as I'm aware, dark nefarious information coming into that necessarily, other than your own trauma. So yeah, talk us through that.
Oh, you've gone.
Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I muted. No, there's nothing dark and nefarious about I Love You Me. It's absolutely pure. It's so pure. It's amazing. You know what? I'm going to try and make this quick, I know, because we've been speaking a long time, but I was born into an environment where it was all love and light, with a world-leading guru in self-knowledge and the heart. And so I was very much in that all the time. And of course, you know, I still have human, you know, it's very human, very down to earth. And it wasn't love and light all the time at home on the grounded level between parents and between people. And in fact, there was a lot of messiness going on. But for me, I was very drawn to that master. And I remember being very, very small and just being absolutely in this golden light, just being completely plugged in. And what I would see was that that wasn't necessarily happening with the people around me. It was the dimension, obviously. But as I was growing up, not realizing how sensitive and psychic and empathic and everything that I was, it was like, I was a lot like you, I think, Magenta. I would just see the golden light in everybody. I would see everybody's light. I would see the potential of their soul and who they could be, and what, you know, more about what their destiny was. And, you know, and the other side, I didn't know enough about. I was too naive about. I didn't recognize it. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to see it, I don't think. Not really realizing, you know, we're young. I didn't know. And it wasn't until, but having said that, I grew up with a father who was taught, you know, preaching prophecies to me from a very young age, and who was always going on about how messed up society is and how it was going to crumble and now it was going to fall. Like, I'm 3, 4, 5 years old growing up with this, with my dad talking about this. And even like we used to have a guy come round to our house every once in a while, and I was told that he was a wizard. He would work on the 4th dimensions, and he would go and sit in our bath for very, like, all night, basically, because you said water is a conductor. That's what he would do, is come to our house because he felt safe in this spiritual energy and protected. And he would sit in the bath, and he would come back down, and my dad would tell me that he'd been fighting warlocks and stuff in the 4th dimension. So I was, you know, from a young age was aware that there was a darker side, but honestly had no idea. It was just like fairy stories. And it wasn't until really I'd gone through my own dark nights of the soul from 14 years and onwards, and through my early 20s. And it was, you know, and my dad, he read all Dave Dyke's books as well. He was always talking about, you know, the collapse of the banks, the collapse of the old system, and, you know, that there were darker forces at work. But it was all just stories from my dad. And it was only when I really switched on I think my potential of what I could do when I was about 29, and I started reading people's souls, like, or realized I validated that I could read people's souls and what I was seeing was real, and then really started reading, really started looking, that then I started seeing much more of the history, like you're talking about, going back to Atlantis, the splicing of the DNA, the splitting, all kinds of stuff, reading it in people's soul memories, and seeing and being shown visions and all kinds of things, what goes on those darker sides, and all of the stuff that's coming to the surface now, all the rituals, the dark practices. Saw that years and years ago, but it was like, yeah, it wasn't so prevalent in the public eye at that time. But with the guidance, that as an actual being coming through rather than just being in that light and being guided by source or light or God, whatever you want to call that. That was really when I was in my early 30s, and I'd been doing soul readings for a long time. And then I was like, how do I help people get out of their karmic stuff? How do I help people, you know, stop oscillating between their dark and their light? And that's when Archangel Michael guided me. But I didn't see him as an archangel. He was just like this little monk on my shoulder that would rock up every time I was with a client and just guide me. And then with him, it was like this whole, it was like seeing, I'm sure you guys get this, a huge circle of loads of different kinds of beings, all light, all different dimensions from different places. And then I'm the human one in the circle. And it's like, so all of that, and loads of the teachers, loads of the, I don't even get to know their names really. It was just an enormous circle. And then it would get all this information and it would come through and be passed, you know, that healing or that information would come through for that client. And that's, yeah, that's where it all started really, right back when I was 29. And it just gets, I'm very blessed, what can I say? And I think you're completely right, Magenta, by the way, to end, I think you totally nailed it, that it is that journey from the naivety of not wanting to see the dark side, or even the light, or even the whole picture, but coming out of human naivety, retaining the innocence, not letting go of the innocence, but really growing up through the naivety, being able to see both sides of reality in this dimension and encompass that and gain wisdom from it so that you can move forward into that ascension, into that next level of evolution. And it is hard. It's not easy for any one of us to do that, but it's absolutely necessary. And you have to do the journey. And many have done it before you. So, you know, it works. You'll be fine. That's what I want to say to anybody who's freaking out about that. It's all, you need Absolutely. You need to see that.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much for sharing. So profound, such wise words from both of you. And I really hope that people have enjoyed this, because we haven't got together for a while. And I don't know about you girls, but I feel when we're talking a lot and we're seeing each other regularly, it's lovely, but I'm not saying it loses power, but it sort of, you know, plods along in a sort of a similar vein energetically. But when we haven't spoken for a while and then we come back together, it's incredibly powerful and the energy is fresh and new and dynamic. And then we create a real alchemy between us. I don't know if you two girls have felt that today, because I certainly have.
Yeah, I felt that. It's had a lot of energy, and I think it's going to be so valuable for all our listeners, definitely. And just hopefully everyone will share this video and subscribe to our channels. You know, I'm building up my platforms again. And you know, and also I just want to let everyone know that I'm getting my book. I'm going to have like the first 100 copies, so I'm going to have a landing page for that. Really excited about creating my book. It's such a beautiful experience, and yeah, I can't wait to share it with you all. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And it is lovely writing. Obviously Tara and I have, you know, created books, and it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful journey and such a learning journey, and so cathartic as a writer, you know, to produce the work. So yeah, thank you.
Sacred. That's what I feel like. I'm birthing something so sacred, and it feels like it's a companion on my journey. And I feel like I always want to be writing a book now, to have that companion. So beautiful.
It's amazing. And I must admit, if I'm troubled or about something, or I'm not perhaps seeing things as clearly as I'd like to psychically, the nine will say to me, come to us. Come to us. What they mean is write, because that's the closest connection I find with them, because I can get out of the way and allow that energy to simply come through me as I write. And just like you said, Jen, it pours out of me. I'm sure it's the same for you, Tara, literally flowing so fast that the words are actually there in my head before my brain has even caught up with them. I can't type fast enough, and there's all these spelling mistakes all over the page because I'm trying to get the word out, and poor Daniel has to put up with all the terrible editing afterwards, and he's like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know, I'm writing so fast. So yes, it is an amazing journey. But thank you to everyone who has listened to us today. And yeah, exciting times and very interesting times. We must get together again, because there's just so much going on. The energies are so intense on a daily basis right now, and there are some profound things coming. This whole revelatory issue with the American competition is huge and very apt for the time of completion, because at a planetary or humanity completion time, of course we want to know what's been hidden. Absolutely, the truth must come out. It's written in all of the energies that can pulse out from source. So interesting times ahead, and I just hope everybody can sit, ground down and sit down and have the faith and the knowing to ride through what is coming, because whilst it's challenging, it's going to be very exciting, especially for those who know this story and have waited for so long for these revelations to come out and for things to finally start happening. And absolutely, that's so close to us now. So
please stop watching mainstream media, because mainstream media, especially news, has literally been weaponized, and every time you tune into it, you put yourself in the firing line to be shot upon, the divine child of the universe. So just don't do it. Set your boundaries. Do not place yourself in the firing line of the mainstream media, because they are as corrupt as corrupt could possibly ever be. So tune into your heart. Your heart knows. That's what we all need to do. Let's drop into our hearts, and our hearts know the truth about if there's any winner, who the winner is. We know who the winner is.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. Even Fox, that used to give such a balanced picture, has now shown its true colors. I will shout out Newsmax and One American News Network, Sky News Australia, and Russia Today. Those four, especially Newsmax at the moment, are there's a high level of accuracy and truth going on there. They're not corrupt, those four. Perhaps not 100%, because but they're as near to journalism as you can get. And I guess with Fox you'll still get perhaps a bit more of the story than with the others, but the other CNN, NBC, ABC, BBC, all of those, this is the old media, and the new media is yourself and finding where you resonate with where the truth is, as you said, Jen. So just thank you everyone for listening to us today. Hope you've enjoyed our chat, and
thank you so much.
So much.
We'll have to come back again. Come back again in a few weeks and see where the land lies and do another update. So thank you everyone. I will now stop recording, and then we'll say goodbye before I end. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Please share this video.